Good afternoon again to everyone. So my name is Sebastian NG. I'm an application engineer and also the sales manager at Fronius Australia. And today what we're going to talk about is the Fronius GEN24 Plus. My recommendation is that we keep the question till the end. It's going to be a bit easy on my side. And from there, we can, if you want, you can type the questions and I will just go through the whole list after the presentation. So as you can see, I'm pretty sure my camera is on. I have, even if most of us at Fronius Australia are working from home, our warehouse and repair center is still going on, so that in the other state you can still get your replacement inverter, for example, or if you need product to be shipped to you guys. One thing is, you can see behind me or this side, I have the Symo GEN24 with me. Even if we're working from home, still we're doing trainings. We're starting to show you guys how to install it and also the features that comes with the inverter. But yes, even if we are working from home, it's an exercise that we keep doing on our side. So thanks to all the technology out there and all the software which allows us to do something like that. Definitely, we have planned to do some hands-on training to show you guys how to wire it, as unfortunately we can't go out and do it in person, but with those video style presentation, definitely it's something that we can achieve. So maybe let's jump in the presentation. So Fronius GEN24 Plus, this is basically our new line of inverter or new product of inverter. So with a new product, so how do we come with the idea? Yes, we need a new product. Designing a new product also has some requirement, and for us, it's not only just going out saying, okay, we want to pack all the features, having an inverter which has everything inside. What is really important for us to understand is what the customer actually needs there. So the first thing that when we did surveys, we asked our customers what they want. They want to make sure that they have a green energy future. So they want to have a green energy source. Then the next question that we ask them is what they want to do when they have a solar system is they want to make sure that they maximize their self-consumption. Then also some of them told us, okay, look, I work in a office most of the day. Yes, I want to have a solar system, but I want to use the energy at a later stage. So for example, like battery storage would be something. Quite a high, let's say a high response from our customers was also, they want to be independent. Most of the people always say, hey, I want to have solar. I want to be independent from the grid. I want to be able to produce my own energy source. It's a bit like getting their own, let's say, vegetables, for example. Some of our customers are quite advanced in this, let's say, energy transition. They already have electric cars. So for example, they want to make sure that they divert any excess of energy to this, let's say, to their electrical car. And overall, they want a smart system. They want to make sure that they can integrate with different appliances. So how did we do it on our side, and how do we interpret what they are telling us? The first thing is, when they say that they want to have a green, sustainable system, is that they want something reliable. They want to make sure when the system is out there, it's performing. Then what they say by, for example, when they mention maximize self-consumption, it's basically making the most of what they have. And usually how you achieve this goal is to have like energy management, different options to maximize their self-consumption. Then when they say later use their power at a later stage, battery connection is then a big topic. So that's what I will cover later on in the presentation. And then from there, we want like an inexpensive backup. So we have different options, for example, with the Gen24. Intelligent interfaces, so having a product that can talk to different, let's say, devices is something quite important. We've done it before, so within this product, we want to keep it this way. Then finally, the integrated energy management, which is a solution within the inverter itself. So let's now look at the Fronius GEN24, what will be available for you guys. So we stick to the name Primo and Symo. So Primo means single phase, Symo means symmetrical three-phase output. So Primo will be for the single phase Gen24 Plus, and the Symo will be for the three-phase. Then you will have three different power classes for the Primo, so 3, 5, and 6 kilowatt, and then the Symo Gen24 will be 6 to 10 kilowatt in Australia. Then both inverters will have 2 MPPT tracker and then 1 battery input. So one thing which will be quite interesting on our side is maybe on the single phase, it would be good for us to know which, let's say, size do you think you will install the most in the next couple of months, just sizes in general. So yeah, there is a poll right now just for us to get a feeling of, will it be more Primo 5s or will it be more Primo 6 that you guys will install? So that's quite a good percentage. So Primo 5s is at the moment around 72% of you guys think that they will go ahead with that. 26% or 25, yeah, around 25, 27% are saying Primo 6. That's really interesting on our side. That's really good. So 68% of you guys voted. That's good. Okay, most of you guys will still go with a Primo 5, and around 30% will go with a Primo 6. All right, that's good information also for us to know which one you guys will need, and it will help us, for example, to make sure that we have this amount of product in the country. All right, so let's move to the next part here and cover a bit of the topic of what the customer actually needs and wants, and how did we integrate it with our inverter. So when they say reliable system, they are in a transition at the moment where they are moving from, let's say, using a lot of power from the grid by basically using a solar system. So it's a bit of a transition. When it comes to, let's say, the whole system, they want to make sure that they reduce the total energy cost that they are paying. They want to be able to expand later on, for example. And yes, at the end of the day, the goal is to be 100% renewable energy with solar. Then you have a hot water system, and let's say hot water system and heating, maximizing their self-consumption, making the most of what they have. They want to make sure that they are using the power that is being produced by the inverter and not from the grid, for example. So that's how this particular inverter will be compatible with our Fronius Untitled. So we're not going to cover a lot about it, but there's a lot of information definitely about the Untitled, which is a power diverter. So using this surplus energy like in a smart way, in an economical way, and an efficient storage solution, which I will explain a bit later. Then we want to offer options to the customer, saying, okay, if you want to have a battery later on, it is possible. So you can have a battery or have it without a battery. You want to, when it comes to battery, it will increase your self-consumption. So for example, if you want to use your energy at the later stage, if you want to increase basically the amount of energy that you're using that, from, let's say, from the solar. You will be able to retrofit this system on a current installation. That will be quite straightforward. Battery compatibility will be BYD, HVS, and HVM at the start. And also we want to give an inexpensive solution. So I will cover a bit about that later on in the presentation. So let's maybe look at BYD, what options you have. So BYD, the first version, which is HVS, the battery chemicals are lithium iron phosphate. They are modular, so it goes from 2 to 4 modules. And the kilowatt hour storage is basically 5.12 to 10.24 kilowatt hour, and they are retrofittable. So if someone just wants to go with 2 modules, it is possible, and later on expand. If they want to go full 10.24 and with 4 modules, it is also possible. And it is a ground mount system. It is really easy to commission. Yeah, I will also explain a bit of differences with the other one. So then you have the BYD HVM, same type of battery chemistry there, so lithium iron phosphate again. It is modular, same as the HVS, 4 to 8 modules, but the storage is different. This one goes from 11 kilowatt hour to 22 kilowatt hour. The steps are the same, which is 2.8 kilowatt hour, and again, ground mount and easy commissioning. So the first thing that we will maybe have as question will be, what are the difference between those two batteries? So let me show you here, which is basically, I call it the cheat sheet there, so that you can see a bit of what's the difference between the two. So let's start with the HVS. It's basically a 10.2 kilowatt hour, and the HVM is a 22 kilowatt hour battery. So as you can see here, you have more storage with the HVM compared to the HVS. Now, one thing which is similar, if you go maximum storage with a HVS and if you go maximum storage with HVM, the amount of power that you can discharge will be the same. So for example, if a customer goes for a 10.2 HVS, he can discharge or charge the battery with 9 kilowatt on a Symo 10. If they go with a HVM 22 kilowatt hour, they can do the same, discharge or charge using 9 kilowatt. So one thing which will be quite interesting in the market is basically how installers will go and explain to their customers what they are actually paying for will be, I think, an important point. Just to give you an example. So let's say we have installer A who wants to sell HVS with 10 kilowatt hour battery, which can basically do a charging on 9 kilowatt on a Symo 10. Another installer can come in saying, hey, I can offer you an HVM 11 kilowatt hour at a, let's say, lower price. But the thing is, even if it is nearly the same storage, the charging and discharging capability of the, let's say, battery will be different there. So that's what you will need to be careful and explain to the customer what exactly they're getting there. And this charging and discharging is really important in terms of efficiency of the system, of actually, let's say, the power flow of the system, what actually the system can do. So with that, we have the multi-flow technology within our inverter. So I was talking about charging and discharging of the battery. So that's where it comes into place. So our inverter can do basically different charging and discharging direction, and that's what we call multi-flow technology. So just an example, if you have a Symo GEN24, and you have a smart meter also with a battery there, you can charge directly from the PV to the battery, and you can also send power from the PV to your loads or to the grid, for example. So just to give you an example of a Symo 10, so you will be able to get directly 10 kilowatt from the panel to the loads and charge 5 kilowatt directly to the battery at the same time. So this is one of the features of the multi-flow technology. And also, if the grid goes down, you will be able to have this feature enabled. So it's not only doing one thing at a time, it's doing multiple things at a time. And that's where, for example, let's say for all third-party inverter, or if you already have a Fronius inverter installed, you can charge, for example, from the DC to the battery here, or you can also at the same time charge from this inverter on the AC side to the battery. Or with the multi-flow technology, what you can do is take power from the panel to the inverter to your loads, at the same time from the battery to the inverter to the loads, plus also with the other inverter to the loads if you have, for example, quite a high load there. So that's what we can do. We can also charge the battery from let's say the panels to the battery directly, and also from the AC side to the battery. So that's what we call the multi-flow technology with the inverter. So here is a summary, just in case if you have, for example, another external power source, we can have different, let's say, power flowing different orientation at the same time. So that's basically a competition that we won. We got the first place at the energy storage inspection at Berlin. we came at the top here. So we had quite a good overall efficiency. And this is thanks for this multi-flow technology, thanks to the high battery input, also the battery capability. So I will explain how did we achieve this maximum efficiency with the inverter. So the next part is, let's say, grid outage out there. So they want to have, customer want to have a security when the grid goes down. They want to have an option. They want to make sure that they have energy. That's why some people install battery, for example. So they want an inexpensive backup solution. Some of them want to be independent from the grid, so whatever happens, they want to make sure that they have energy. We want to make sure that you can do backup with or without a battery. We want also to give options there, so you choose if you want to have a full backup solution or the PV point. So the PV point is basically another feature that we added to this inverter. So let's maybe start with the PV point. So this PV point is basically a GPO, which looks like that. And this GPO is wired to the inverter. And on the inverter, there's a special dedicated AC output, which goes to this part. So this is basically an automatic reconnection or connection if the grid goes down. The maximum load that you can have from this particular port will be 3 kilowatt, and it's only single phase. And this is, let's say, your easy installation. So what does this mean is, if you look at, let's say, this diagram there, you have your inverter, you have your grid, you have your load, you have your battery if you want one. And then from there is another AC output inside the inverter, which is wired to this PV point or to this GPO there. And this will only work if the grid goes down. If the grid is connected, this PV point doesn't work. So an example, grid goes down, the power can go from the PV generator to this PV point, or it can also go at the same time from the PV generator to the battery. And this is where you have the multi-flow technology. But also in this case, you don't need to rewire anything to your house, because when you usually do a normal backup, you will need to say, okay, those are my essential loads, those are my non-essential loads. If the grid goes down, I need to have a backup switch, and there's a bit of rewiring there. So here, the inverter will isolate itself from the grid, and it will just supply power to this PV point. And this option, the PV point here, can work with a battery, or it can work without a battery. You choose whichever way you want to do. And let's say if you have a battery, you can have power going from here to the PV point and from here to the PV point. So you have two different directions at the same time. And that's how we can actually also achieve this high efficiency level doing those multi-flow technology. So those, I would say here with the PV point, you have two options there. So two backup options. And this is, I would say, your cost-effective solution there. Then after that, you can also do the full backup of your house. So just an example, you can have a 3-phase backup power. You can supply nearly your entire household. Most of the time you can. Again, it depends what load you have there. You have a switchover of less than 6 seconds. So when the grid goes down, it will take around that time. And you have the option. You can have like a single phase or a 3-phase loads in backup situation. And that's how you maximize the energy consumption there. So just to show you here, so you have a Fronius smart meter installed here. So let's say the grid goes down. In this situation, you have a backup switch that you will need to install, and that's where you will have maybe your essential and non-essential load, depending again how much load you have on site. So with this particular backup switch, it will open in the case of a grid outage, and then from there, again, you have this multi-flow technology. So the power can go from the PV generator to the battery, but also from the PV generator to your household at the same time. Or, for example, discharge the battery to your household load, and also from the PV generator to your loads there. So you will be able to do this multi-flow technology also there. So those inverters also have quite also third-party capability and immobility there. So for example, we have open interfaces, which I will mention a bit later, but you will be also able to do home automation. There is quite a lot of features that you can integrate with our inverter, and this has been the same with our Snap inverter. We are able to talk to different devices via Modbus, for example. So just to show you a list of open interfaces that we have. So we have LAN connection, of course, hardwired option. We have Wi-Fi option. We have Modbus RTU and TCP sunspec. So one thing that changed with this particular inverter is the Modbus RTU. You have 2 ports available now. So some of you have installed, for example, a Snap inverter, and for example, let's say Selectronics inverter, and you know that those 2 talks via Modbus RTU, and there's only 1 port on our data manager card. On this new card, which is inside of this inverter, the Pilot, there are 2 ports. So for example, in this case, you can have 2 devices connected to it. You can have, for example, a Selectronics, and then you can also have a smart meter installed there. So we increased the amount of ports, and again, we had the sunspec options there. We kept the digital AUS, so you can do input or output, and there's controls features through that, and also the Fronius API, which also is something that we are developing and working on at the moment. With the energy management, so we have open interfaces. So as we can do right now with our Snap inverter, we can also do it with our Gen24. So what does this mean is you have a Fronius smart meter in the main switchboard, and if, for example, you have excess of energy, you can say, okay, turn this load on using an external contactor, and you can choose, for example, 4 different let's say contactors to turn on and off, and you can say, okay, this one turns on first, then the second one, then the third one. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. So those energy flow management usually works for or usually what you do is with big loads, like your hot water system, your pool pump, stuff like that. That's where usually people will use this energy flow management. So now let's have a look at the planning and the actual features, let's say all the parameters of the inverter, with let's say the Primo first, and then we're going to have a look at the Symo Gen24. So with the Primo Gen24, the plan will be to bring the 4, 5, 6. So with the Fronius Primo Gen24, it's not going to be out yet this year. So it's just that we cover a bit of base there, but I will still show you what are the feature of the inverter. So the first thing is the inverter has quite a broad voltage range. So compared to a normal Primo with the voltage of 80 volts starting voltage, this one goes lower. It goes to 65, and then the MPPT voltage is 65 to 530 volts. And having this wide voltage range means that your inverter can start early, but also the minimum amount of modules, depending again which modules you use, 3 is enough to start the inverter. So that's, I think, quite impressive there. The maximum DC voltage would be 600 volts. So here in Australia, we don't go above this number. The amount of PV input also is 2, compared to our current Symo is 1. So here you will have 22 amps on the first tracker and 12 amps on the second tracker. So what does this mean is, for example, you can put nearly 100% on one tracker, and then or if you want, you can do 50-50. So there's quite a flexible options in terms of PV input. Then you also have one battery input, 22 amps, for basically charging the inverter, and that's how also we achieve this goal of high input from high power from the panel to the battery. Those inverters will be able to oversize by 150%. So that's also something to keep in mind. Then the one that we are going to talk a bit more about is the Fronius Symo GEN24 Plus. So this is where the power classes will be 6 to 10 kilowatt. Again, we have quite a broad voltage range, so 80 to 800 volts. Again, 3 modules is enough to start the inverter. This one can be used also for maybe, let's say, your small commercial application. It has a higher max DC voltage, but also for three-phase inverter, you will have a higher DC voltage. Again, here we have two input for the PV, so it's going to be 25 amps for the first tracker, then 12.5 amps for the second tracker. One thing is it's higher than the Primo, and also the battery input, which is 22 amps. And again, you can oversize this system by 150%. So this is where it gets really interesting with the award that we got with the efficiency. So just to give you an example again, as I was mentioning a bit at the start, if you have a 10 kilowatt Symo hybrid, you will be able to put 15 kilowatt on this inverter. The amount of power that this inverter can convert from DC to AC is 10 kilowatt. The amount of power that it can harvest is 15 kilowatt. So what do I mean by that? Let's say your load is asking for 10 kilowatt. Basically, what will happen is your PV, the inverter will take the power from the 15 kilowatt worth of panel. It will take 10, it will convert it, send it to your load, and then there's this 5, which is sitting there. This 5 kilowatt with this particular inverter, we are able to charge directly from the PV to the battery. So that's how we can harvest all the 15 kilowatt and use all the 15 kilowatt. And that's how we were able to achieve, let's say, this high efficiency outcome there. This inverter then also come with our dynamic peak manager, which is our feature to help with shading. So this has been in our inverter also, which has been in our snap inverter. It is a shadow tolerant algorithm. This helps to reduce losses when it comes to a bit of shading, and it helps you find the global maximum point. So just to show you how it works, usually a normal tracker will track from open circuit voltage to short circuit current, and most of them will stop here. Compared to our tracker, what we do is we scan the whole curve, because they may have another, let's say, maximum power point there. So that's a big difference, and that's how you can let's say, harvest more energy there. So we have a paper which explains this. As mentioned, some of the trackers out there, what they do is they start to track from open circuit voltage, track, find the maximum point, and then they say that, okay, now the power is reducing, I will go back there. But in this case, for example, you saw that there was 2 peaks in some shading case scenario. So that's how we can find the second peak and harvest more energy there. Also, we know here in Australia it's pretty warm, but also in other parts of the world where our inverters are installed, and so that's why we have active cooling technology. So we have active cooling technology in nearly all our inverters, and we know that active cooling technology, with our experience, 75 years experience in power conversion, we know that it increased the lifespan of the inverter. We know that you can have more yield. So some people look at just on a piece of paper saying, okay, this inverter can do this kilowatt. You can oversize this inverter just by kilowatt values or input values. But when you put the inverter in the real world, when it needs to work with, let's say, other factors like heat, they don't perform as well as it says on the piece of paper. And that's how we were able to test our inverter. We know that there's less cost involved because you don't need to clean heat sinks, for example. It's active cooling, and it's a more flexible and easier installation. So you have like flexibility where you can put the inverter. So we did design a new heat sink. So this is a new one. We actually have a white paper on it explaining how it cools the inverter a bit differently, more efficiently. Also, we have one bigger fan at the front, which sucks the air in and cool the system. So when you join a bigger fan and a new, let's say, heat sink, those two combination makes that we don't need to have this fan to be running this particular fan that much. So that's also a big advantage of having this new cooling technology. And also performance of the inverter has helped quite a lot with that. All right, now let's jump in the installation and of the inverter and how does it come out of the box. So one feedback that we got is from some installers saying, okay, those snap inverters, we need to remove it from the box. We need to remove the wall bracket. What we want is something, let's say, simpler. So the first thing as the snap inverter, the first thing that comes out of the box, the one thing that we know you guys like to do is to read the installation manual. So that's the first thing that comes out. Then the next thing is the wall bracket. That's what you need to put and fix to the wall. Here you will see that there's two features, so that when you get the inverter itself out, you can just hook it up. So that's kind of like a snap feature. You put it on and snap it in and locked by using those two features here on the bottom left and right hand side. After that, you have all your DC connection area here at the bottom, and then from there you have your connection area cover. So one thing that some people mention is, okay, the inverter is a bit bigger than the other one on the market. So if you look at if you had the chance to have a look at this inverter in person, we left a lot of space in here. So you can see that the inverter itself is only the top part here, which is quite small. And then if you look at the connection area, this is the one which takes nearly what, 1/3 of the inverter. Why did we do this? Is installers said we like to have a space, we want to have a space to run the cables in, quite an easy process, and quite make them comfortable with those side of things. So after that, you just put the cover, and this is one new thing. We have 180-degree screw lock, so you don't need to use a drill to put this cover on this inverter. Just 180 degree, and you have two screws here to put the cover on. So this is just a slide to show you how it works. This is the snap-in feature. You have 6 screws at the back. So you saw before, I have one here with me, and then those are the 180-degree screw lock there. And then from this point, we have a spring release clamp. So you don't need to use drill to tighten a screw to have your cable in place. It's basically spring release, and you can easily disconnect this part from inside the inverter. So you don't really need a torque device, for example. We also got feedback about the commissioning process on our inverter. So we are changing all the options, not all, the few options there. So one thing, I will just go back a few slides. Here you can see that there is no screens, but there is a button that you can press at the front of the inverter, and there is a function called WPS function. So basically, how does it work? You have a WPS button on your modem. You press this button on your modem, and you press also the button here on the inverter, and they will just sync directly. So you don't need to connect your phone to the inverter and then tell the inverter to connect it to the Wi-Fi. So it's really a simple and direct process, I would say. And it is one of the options out there if you want to do it. So we did take feedback from the market. So this is just a preview of how it will look like. Definitely the app is coming soon. So you will be able to, for example, set up your network first, then set up the product, and then add it on SolarWeb. And all of this, you will do, let's say the two part will be directly connected to the inverter, and the last is when you need to connect your phone to the internet to finish it. But those two process, I did it myself on some of the units that we have. It's very straightforward and quite easy. So I have a video also to show you guys how this works. So you should be able to hear the sound. All right, so let me go back just to show you a bit. I'm pretty sure you guys saw the process, but the first thing is you set up the network, and that's where you select the customer network and then click connect. The one thing for those who are used to our product, usually you need to take your phone, connect it to the inverter, and then from there, you need to take your phone, connect it to the customer network. This process, you don't need to do it anymore. You will only be connected to the inverter for the entire process. So when you connect your phone to the inverter, you select network, you go through all the process in the video, and then from there, you don't need to disconnect. Then you go and set up the inverter itself. So from this part, you will know if the system is connected or not. Then the next part is just selecting the right grid settings. If you need to set up, let's say, export control, if you need to activate a meter, everything is done via the product. And finally, you add it on SolarWeb. So those are the three processes. Definitely, we will do a video and also trainings how to do it. But from my experience, when I did it, it's let's say really different from what we did with our snap inverter. We took all the feedback in and make that better. So this new commissioning app also will be for the snap inverter, and there will be some difference in terms of setting up, but definitely we will do some webinars on that. So now with the monitoring, everything will be able to be done via the Fronius SolarWeb portal. Again, it's a friendly visualization. There are also some changes that International is working on, but at the moment, it's what you guys have seen before. You can see all the consumption, all the data, everything that you can do with a snap, you will be able to see with a Gen24. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys have heard that we have a battery simulation now on our portal. So if you have a Fronius smart meter, you will be able to run battery simulation and doing updates. I highly recommend to have smart meters on all systems. It's just data that you can use later on. Service part of the inverter, you know, all our product has been serviceable on site. So this is a really, really important part for us. So here you can see how the inverter, let's say the main parts are, how it looks like. And here you have the backing plate, you have the inverter itself, but then you have the power stack just behind this heatsink. And that's the component that we will say that you will need to change. You don't need to change the whole thing, just this power stack. So there is one big board behind this heatsink, and then you have the new monitoring card, which is called the pilot. So basically, there's only two components that you will need to change on an inverter, and that's where we want to have this fast service option on the market. And this is something really important because we know when the system is not working, the customer is losing. So that's where it's really, really important that we make sure that we optimize the service side of things. So just as a summary, you will be able to change components. You will be able to be notified if you have the system online, or if something if something goes wrong, you will have a red light showing on the screen. But we think that all the system will be online. You can troubleshoot via SolarWeb, and for us, this vision of going only once to site is basically the best options there and the fastest option out there. Also, as mentioned, you have a lot of space with the inverter where you have all the cable coming in. So it's really easy, accessible connection area. And we want to make sure that with this fast solution, you have, let's say, more satisfied customers. That's basically some, let's say, summary of the Fronius GEN24 Plus, which is quite unique and versatile. And this is basically where you have all the solution, all the requirements from the customer in one product. So just to add a bit on top of that, we have some additional options. So you will be able to put these SPDs inside if required. There will be space for this. There is arc fault protection, but those are basically just for the US market. The Fronius smart meter that you will need to install with the inverter is basically those are the 63 amps. Those are basically the single phase smart meter available here in Australia, but you also, those are the one that you're going to use for the 3-phase inverter. So 63 amp direct connect, 50K, 5 amp secondary CTs, and 480 UL meter, which is 333 millivolt CT. So those meters, I'm pretty sure you guys know about it. Those are the ones that you will need to use on with the Symo GEN24. Remote monitoring, we spoke a bit about it, but it will be the SolarWeb portal. So we have a few screenshots to show you how it looks like. You will be able to see charging and discharging of the battery. Also, with SolarWeb Premium, you will be able to do weather forecast to be able to see how much you may produce in the next 2 days. Alexa also, it's available now. You can, if you have a premium account, you can ask Alexa questions and say, "Hi Alexa, how much power my system is producing?" So this feature is available now. You can have a look. In terms of charging for the premium, we don't have any update yet. And what is included also, I think we saw on social media, some people were not sure. You will have all those bar charts available with the premium, but definitely when we have more exact dates, we're going to let you know. But at the moment, we don't have any update when this will become a paid version. Still in the works, I would say. Also, what we are planning in the future with the Symo GEN24 or the GEN24 in general, so for your commercial system, what we are planning is to be able to have at least 3 of those GEN24 on one side. Again, this is planned. It won't be possible when you release the inverter and have 1 battery per inverter. So then you can charge from those inverters to the battery, or if you have PV to the battery. So those basically will be the solution, and you will be able to again oversize all of them by 150%, parallel free hybrid, and have 22 kilowatt hour of battery per inverter. Also, some updates is that's what we're waiting for BYD, but plan also in the future is to be able to parallel 3 batteries to 1 inverter. So basically 66 kilowatt hour worth of battery. So this is planned. Option is saying commercial, but it can also for big residential system. That's what we are looking later on. Again, this won't be possible when the product will be released So you guys should be already able to order some stock from the authorized sales partner. And this brings us to basically the vision. I think it brings us closer to this vision of 24 hours of sun, which is 100% renewable. You guys have seen this this picture before, where we play a big part in this 100% renewable. And there's a lot of different sectors that we are looking, like hydrogen, and also big commercial, small commercial, residential. We're all playing in different segments, definitely there. So that's pretty much it on my side. So now let's maybe have a look at the questions here. All right, I've seen that there is quite a few questions, so let's maybe jump into it. All right. Is there a plan to have a 5 kilowatt three-phase inverter? So you're still going to be able to get the Snap hybrid inverter. So the 5 kilowatt Symo hybrid, not the Gen24. Yeah, you can still have this one, not the Gen24 itself, but the Snap inverter. Is the backup switch a Fronius item or a third-party thing? So with the backup switch, it will be a third-party thing at the moment. So it will be basically you just buy like contactors, relays externally. We were looking at having maybe a box, but it's still in discussion. There's nothing confirmed yet. And if we have to go ahead, it's going to be a third party who will put it together for us. But definitely at the start, you will need to basically get your contactors. Okay, interesting question. Can full backup work without a battery? International told us that it won't be possible. At the start, we were planning to have this, but we think that there's a workaround. So I can't really tell you, Andrew, about it. So officially, we said no, but there may be some workaround that we can find. I think that's really interesting with Australia. You guys always have like all those ideas, which is super great. But definitely, there are some options that we can look into. And if you're interested, Andrew, just get in touch with us. So if you don't have the direct contact details, just email pv-solution-australia@fronius.com, and we can help you with that. Time of switching between grid, normally 6 or 60 seconds. So it will be 60 seconds there. So to drop off and then connect back again. What components makes PV point supply? What components make PV point supply power without battery and grid outage? Basically, whatever 3 kilowatt that you have there. Why is there no Primo 8.2s or Primo 10s? There's, I think, different demands in different countries. So the first thing that we are looking is 3 to 6. This is where it gets really interesting. Some markets are getting the bigger one, but look, like we know that Australia needs a bigger inverter, but that's what we are starting. And for the Primo topic, I can tell you that it won't be, let's say, we don't have plans yet when it's going to be released. The first product that we are bringing will be the Symo Gen24. So you should be able to purchase order, and it should be there around October, early October. But with the Primo, we don't have exact dates. It's going to be next year. We're looking at Q1, but again, not there yet. Is there a DC switch approved like your Primo and Symo, so we don't need external DC isolator? Yes, the DC isolator will be, you don't need any external DC isolator with the inverter. The IP rating of the Gen24 should be 66, if I'm not wrong. I need to double check, 66 or 65. But yeah, it is one of the highest IP rating of our range. Pretty sure it's 66. I need to just double check this. Okay, how noisy is it in the real world compared to current model? I had a chance to hear a Primo, I think 5 or 6, which is a bit smaller than the Symo 5. One thing that I can tell you, it's the amount of noise emission is lower, so you can see it on the data sheet. It's basically way lower when the fan is running at 100%. For me, it was a difference, definitely. So it's something that we work on, we got feedback, and we worked on. And as I mentioned, the inverter is not, let's say, working at 100% of what the fan itself can do. I already have a Symo 5 with 6 kWh panel. I want to add a battery later. We are only permitted to have max 8 kWh of inverter on our property in Western Australia. It looks like I won't be able to add a Symo GEN24 Plus because the smallest, oops, I just lost the question. Because the smallest of those is the 6, which added to the existing would exceed our total allowable inverter capacity. I assume I will only be able to use the Symo Hybrid 3 with HBYD, long one, and 4.5 kWh of panels. Is that correct? You need to check the regulation in Western Australia. I'm pretty sure it's 15 kilowatt max. Maybe I'm wrong there with the maximum on a 3-phase. I would say you need to double check how much you can put on the let's say connect how much inverter. One thing is you can AC couple the battery or the inverter and the battery to your existing system, but I will definitely double check this, because I thought it was 15, but maybe this has changed. Definitely get in touch. I think David, you can get in touch with an installer. Should be able to help you. Is it only for self-managed batteries? Did we get this one? Okay, question by Andrew. Do you have battery logic that respond to the weather forecast on sunny days? It's better to delay charging midday instead of SAP. In regards to this, the one thing that I know is we have recommendations. So we can tell you, okay, do this, do that, but not exactly this feature. I need to double check with International for this particular one. It's a really good question. Definitely, I will get back to you on this one, Andrew. But in regards to that, it's a good idea. Definitely, it's saying charge the battery and discharge depending on weather forecast. But I don't think the feature is there yet. Can you give more information about the backup switch, please? Yes, so we have a guide which show you how to do the backup options. So we have an installation manual, which installation and operating manual. And in the operating manual, it tells you exactly what contactors you need to get and what types, like 3 normally open, 2 normally close contactors. So there's quite a lot of information. Does the Symo GEN24 split the AC evenly across the 3-phase, or can it supply what is needed to each phase? The Symo GEN24, when it's working, when it's grid connected, is symmetrical, which means that it will send equal amount of power across all the phases. But this should be all good in Australia, because usually this question is related to you're going to pay more on one phase and then you're going to be charged on the other. You're going to be charged on one phase and you're going to be sending power on the other phase. But here in Australia, you get charged across all the 3 phases altogether, aggregated value. What date are the Gen24 inverters will be available? Only early October. You should be able to put the purchase order through our sales partner, and it will be the Symo GEN24 first. Yeah. Would you recommend putting the total array across one MPPT or spread it across the 2? It really depends. It really depends what you have there. For me, what I usually do, if I need 2 trackers, then yes, but if I only need 1 tracker, then I'll just use, like, it depends if you want to go all in one direction or if you want to have multiple orientation. Yeah, it really depends. Like most, let's say, houses out there, especially Resi, 2 trackers is good so that you can get most out of it. Yeah, it really depends. And if I can go above 600 volt, that's basically my options. Or that's what I would select. I would prefer to have longer strings in general. As a DC isolator has been approved for use, and we need to mount our own DC isolator. No, the DC isolator is approved. Basically, in the picture where you saw the power stack, is just behind the power stack, so it's all behind. How loud the inverter will be, I already mentioned this one. What if there is no Wi-Fi connection available? So if you don't have Wi-Fi connection available, you can still display the information on a screen if you want. Are the Modbus address list available? Greg, I need to check that. But if you can send an email to pv-solutions, pv-solution-australia@fronius.com, I can definitely try to find this out. The Symo GEN24 Plus 10 kilowatts should be already available. How many strings per MPPT? Should be 3 strings per MPPT. Oh, you mean DC input? I'm not sure about this one. I think you mean DC input. Should be 3 if I'm not wrong. Need to double check this one. Will we be able to protect the AC side with an RCD? Yes, you will be able to put the 30 milliamp. I think it says actually in the installation manual, 30 milliamp RCD. What is the warranty? So at the moment, it's going to be 5 plus 5. It's just a promotion that we're going to run till the end of December. So we will give more information about the warranty. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. Cost, I can't tell you exactly how much it will cost. You will need to go through our sales partner, and they will be able to tell you about it. When are the primary availables? Already mentioned this one. It's going to be early next year. The goal for us is to bring the Symo GEN24 first, and then bring the other product. Can I attach a sensor box to a Gen24? This one is a good question. I will need to double check that because of the communication is different. I'm pretty sure I need to double check this one unit. So if you can maybe email our PV Solutions Australia email address, and we can double check that for you. Grid voltage management can be set on this one. Yes, you will be able to do grid management, or I think you're referring to different grid parameter settings, so you will be able to do it on the inverter. Isn't it the maximum DC string current in the primary 10 greater than 25 amp? Isn't it 37.5 amp on MPPT1? I think this one, Scott, I need to double check the Symo 10 data sheet, but I think this is when you combine the two together, the two MPPT, but I need to have a look at this one. Can the Gen24 work with an AC coupled battery? Yes, it can work with an AC coupled battery. So Tesla or Sonnen, it will work fine. Okay, so when do you expect you will achieve compatibility with other batteries? So the next batteries that we are working with, what we will be working with, will be LG Chem. So with LG Chem, it will be, I don't have any update yet, but this will be the next one. But when we launch, it's going to be BYD. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have exact dates. At the moment, from our side, I think it's only those two batteries. One thing that I didn't mention for all of you there is the wiring. This is something quite special to Australia. You guys like to do rear entry on the inverter so that the whole thing looks nice. So with this particular inverter, you will be able to do a rear entry for your cables. So that's something also new there. Okay, it looks like I don't have any other questions. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any other questions there. So thanks again, guys, for attending this webinar. I we really appreciate it, taking some time. Please leave us a feedback to see what we can do more. And yeah, if you want to put your purchase order in, please have a chat with your sales partner, your BDMs. There's a few people out there. And then, yeah, from there, if you have any questions, any trainings that you guys are after, more in-depth trainings, please contact PV Solutions. We are doing quite a few webinars in the next couple of months. And yeah, as you can see behind me, I have the inverter, so we can, even if we are at home, we can provide support. Yes, basically business as usual. Everyone will get a copy. So you have a handout, forgot to mention that, but you have a handout section on this particular platform where you can download all the files. You will also receive an email with a link where you need to download, where you can download all the presentation content. So yes, you have two options via the handout or the email. But thanks again, everyone, for joining. If you have more questions, more than happy to answer them. Again, PV Solutions, pv-solution-australia@fronius.com. Thanks again, everyone, and I hope you have a good afternoon.